Welcome to the kbbreview podcast. I'm Andy Davies, and this is the second episode of our special three-part series we're calling Changemakers. It's all in association with our very good friends at Hettich, and together we're meeting people or companies that are truly forging their own path in the UK kitchen and bathroom sector. They're the ones shaping opinions, trends, and business practices in a way that genuinely shifts the industry zeitgeist. And I'm very pleased to say that once again my co-host in this series is Hettich UK MD, Simeon Gabriel. Hello again.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you too, sir. This week we're meeting Paul Lee and Gordon Robinson from Kutchenhaus. Now, Kutchenhaus is, of course, the retail franchise outfit that has managed to just grow and grow in a way that no other franchise company in this market has really been able to do. It's owned by German kitchen manufacturing giant Nobilia, a company Hettich knows very well, and it's now managed to reach a size and influence that is shaping market trends and share and leading other companies, notably Magnet, to launch franchise operations. Really, really impressive. Simeon, what are your thoughts on Kutchenhaus?
Well, yeah, it's a bit of a phenomenon, isn't it? It seems to have come out of almost nowhere, and the growth has been incredible. So franchising has always been a little bit on the periphery of the market, but clearly not anymore. And, you know, it's really interesting for me to see how this can potentially influence the independent kitchen retail market in the future.
Yeah, it is really interesting. I think influence is probably the word that we're looking at here for how Kutchenhaus grows and grows. So here we go. Let's meet Paul Lee and Gordon Robinson from Kutchenhaus. So here we are. Joining me, we have Simeon, obviously. Hello, Simeon.
Greetings.
And we have Paul Lee and we have Gordon Robinson from Kutchenhaus. Good morning, chaps.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Paul, let's start with you. Well, let's assume people have lived under a rock. Give us the short version story of Kutchenhaus in the UK, because I think it's been very active in the last 5 years, say. It's actually been around quite a long time, hasn't it?
Absolutely, Andrew. So we're celebrating 20 years this year, 2024. Obviously started in the UK in 2004. We switched to more of a franchise model from 2015. When the new leadership team came in more recently, as you suggest, 2019, that's really accelerated that process down the franchise route.
Right, okay. So it's, like I say, it's a well-known name, been around a long time. Give us an idea of the scale of it.
In the UK, come the end of Q3, so end of September, we'll have somewhere between 80 and 85 showrooms here in the UK. We also have presence in other international countries. We have presence in Portugal. We're expanding in the US. We've recently opened a second showroom in Miami with further expansion plans due for 2024-25 in South Florida. And we have presence in Australia with 3 showrooms in the Sydney area. And as of yesterday, I was approached by one of our team with a request for a new website for a new European country, which will manifest itself next year.
Okay. I'm assuming it's not Germany. I mean, that would be too weird.
I can confirm it's not Germany.
Right, okay. All right, so let's roll it back again. What do you have to do to be a franchisee at Kutchenhaus? What's the sort of process of taking them on board?
Well, when we're onboarding new franchise partners, we have 3 focus areas of 3 profiles of franchise partners that we tend to look at. The first one is kitchen designers. So this could be someone who's currently working for a leading kitchen brand here in the UK, and they have a reputation. They're perceived to be in the top 10% of the field. We approach them. We suggest, where do you see yourself in a few years' time? Are you still a kitchen designer working for one of these great brands, or do you see yourself running your own business, owning your own showroom, having your own team, and becoming part of the Kutchenhaus family? So that's the first category. Number 2, we're looking at independence, as you're aware of. And the benefit of switching from being an independent to becoming across to Kutchenhaus is you just get this extreme level of support from the support centre and the knowledge sharing of the existing franchise partner team. That is what I would say Kutchenhaus is all about. It's the team approach from a support centre point of view, and also the knowledge sharing backup of franchise partners.
So there's an awful lot of support, but at the same time, how much autonomy do the franchisees have?
Well, in terms of, I look at things obviously through a marketing lens, through a marketing perspective. The franchise partners come on board. They have a good amount of freedom when it comes to their local marketing. We've recently launched internally a brand toolkit to secure the marketing output, whether it's online or offline, is on brand and on message, because of course, from a marketing perspective, it's hugely important. But within that, the franchise partners at a local level have a good deal of freedom.
That's fantastic to have that framework to work around, but have a great degree of freedom to actually operate, because obviously when it comes down to it, the franchisees know their local market, they know their local customers.
Absolutely. We offer feedback on a regular basis. We reach out to the franchise partners to support editorials such as kbbreview. And we look at trends in different parts of the country, because it's not a one approach system. There's different trends apparent in different parts of the country. So different customer needs.
I suppose that autonomy, pros, cons, limitations, however you talk about it with any franchise operation, not just yours, is that you can only choose from a certain number of suppliers. They are central agreements that you have, brands that they can work with. Do they have any autonomy with the products that they use, for example?
Well, in terms of appliance providers, we have a premium partner with AEG, but we work with we want to limit our customers' choice. We work with all the top appliance brands in this country. We're offering both our franchise partners and the end consumers in our showrooms that flexibility of choice.
So is it only two types of franchise partner that you have, or are there any more?
No, there is a third category that we look at, and that would be the investor. So that's a person who has got a good financial backing. They may not necessarily be from the kitchen backgrounds. We, again, prefer to be people who are retail savvy and understand the customer journey. So this could be an investor who's got money to invest in a new showroom. And I would suggest that the key to success there is the realization that the first port of call needs to be recruiting a salesperson who can design kitchen showrooms. That is the crux of success.
So they are more of an entrepreneurial spirit, but what you're saying is that they need somebody who really understands the industry and understands the kitchen design process to work alongside them.
Absolutely, Simeon. I think that's critical to service the customers in an optimal way, yes.
Yeah, makes
sense. So, Gordon, let's just bring you in. You are the e-commerce director?
Yes.
And obviously this is a retail showroom setup here. So where does the digital support come into this franchise package?
Yeah, so my role is really all about delivering technology which our showrooms and our kind of support office can use to deliver customers the service they need. So that could be all the way from a new website platform through to changes to our CRM platform. Really, my role is to help firstly deliver the technology change, but then also deliver it within the business. So, working with various people across the organisation to make sure that we deliver change properly and that we really realise the benefit of the change.
So it's not e-commerce in the strict definition of the term, like you're selling something through the websites.
I'd almost describe myself as more being responsible for digital transformation. My kind of background is e-commerce, but that's quite a wide-ranging topic.
From a digital standpoint, then I'm guessing it's quite important from a lead generation perspective. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, it is, yeah. So I think for most customers, their first experience of a Kutchenhaus will be online. So they might be researching for a kitchen. They're looking for some inspiration. They want to understand more about the product. They want to understand more about the brand. That can be the first customer touch point. And from then on, it's all about, can we get customers in showrooms? Can our customers really understand the product? And can our showroom teams give them the experience they need in our showroom?
And I think that was something that came up repeatedly during the retail safari that we did, Andy, was that seamless transition between the online space and the showrooms is critical to customers now. So how do you approach that?
I think firstly, it's about having a single version of the truth. As a customer, it's very frustrating if you do things online. Then when you go in store, the showroom team don't know what you've done online. They don't know that you've done a plan. They don't know what you're interested in. So really, it's all about making sure that our showrooms have the right information around their customers. So if a customer has a particular preference for a certain kitchen style, really we want to be able to arm our showroom teams with that information.
So let's go back to you, Paul, because you're obviously the marketing guy and lead generation obviously comes across both of you. You said that there's an autonomy with each individual franchisee for their own sort of local knowledge and local lead generation in that sense. Where does the boundary stop? Where did your responsibility end and begin?
So from a support centre marketing function, our responsibility is obviously for the national marketing that we do. And Gordon and I have worked on recently several new projects. We've recently launched a newly redesigned website. Within that, there's a kitchen planner. Again, we talked about customer journey. Customer who goes onto, or a user as we prefer to call them, goes onto the new Kutchenhaus website, has an opportunity to play with a kitchen planner, very straightforward tool, which hopefully gets them inspired enough to make contact with their local showroom. And then the showroom will have sight of their plan. So we're running many projects in terms of Kutchenhaus national marketing. We're about to launch a brand new national advertising campaign, which allows us to go into brand new territory that Kutchenhaus hasn't marketed to before. So we're talking to potential new customers in digital platforms.
Because I think you've grown very quickly over a short space of time. As you say, you're knocking on the door of 80-odd franchisees there. And I suppose with something like marketing, consistency in getting everybody to do and say the same thing in the right way, that is the brand guidelines, must be one of the hardest things. Or is it quite straightforward when you've got that many?
I think you're right. I think it is a challenge. If you've watched the film The Founder, which is about franchising, I think Michael Keaton, McDonald's.
I've seen that one.
Everyone in franchise has seen that film. I think it's a really, really great film. There are challenges with consistency of approach, and of course, consistency is massively in terms of in marketing. hitting that recognition level. So we've recently internally again launched a brand toolkit, brand new platform. All of our showrooms have access to it. We're hopefully experts in marketing. That's my background for the last 20, 25 years. We can't expect every single franchise person or people present in our showrooms to be marketing experts. That's not their role. So we've created a brand toolkit for them, which hopefully simplifies the process. When they're executing local marketing, they follow the guides that we've put in place. Great new tool, which makes that process a lot more simpler for them.
By the sounds of things, the general idea is to provide them with a toolkit, and then how they deploy those tools is kind of up to them. That's where the autonomy comes in, right?
Absolutely right. So again, we talked about autonomy earlier. They do have that level of freedom. And what we suggest when you're perhaps doing local marketing for the first time, whether it's online or offline, please send what you've created to us for quick review. The marketing team at Support Centre will feedback, a few tweaks, and then you're good to go. And of course, showrooms who are more advanced in terms of their marketing, they've been doing it perhaps for a longer period of time. They're using the toolkit, or they're perhaps more proficient at this stage.
Do you spend your life telling people how to spell Kutchenhaus? How basic do you have to get sometimes, but particularly with new franchisees?
Not just in Kutchenhaus, but in other businesses, a key focus where it's a starting point is simply the use of the brand logo, which everyone is on board with. Again, that consistency of approach, why the brand logo is important from a customer's recognition point of view. Everything follows pretty simply, straightforwardly from there. Use of the brand logo, tone of voice, etc., etc.
Let's ask you, Gordon. I'm just wondering whether you have a gang of guys somewhere just who are constantly phoning people up going, don't use that logo there, or why have you put that on that? Or
I think that's more Paul's area than mine in terms of reinforcing the brand. But it is something that we are very focused on in terms of how we turn up across the different customer touch points. So whether you see some printed material, printed marketing, whether you see a digital advert online, whether you see the website, they all need to sing off the same hymn sheet.
Because there's no question that the rise of Kutchenhaus in such a short space of time, has been about the sheer number of franchisees that you have and therefore how often you see it. But these things are only ever going to work if you have consistency and if you're seeing the same thing everywhere and you have that kind of subliminal recognition of the thing. It's been so interesting the way that you've done it, and I'm wondering what the critical mass of it is. But we'll talk a bit more of that in a minute, I think.
I'm interested because obviously you've seen a great level of growth since you really concentrated on the franchise model. What different experience and what difference in the order process have you seen between dealing with Kutchenhaus and dealing just through a Nobilia dealer, for example?
My understanding is when a Nobilia dealer is ordering a kitchen effectively, my interpretation is they're on their own. The benefit of becoming a Kutchenhaus for an independent, switching over to a Kutchenhaus is literally that level of support. So at the Support Centre head office in Rochdale, we have several departments to assist that process. We have an ordering department. We also have a technical department, which is growing. We've recently onboarded a couple new members to the team literally this week. And their remit is to forensically check every end customer order, meticulously check it to the nth degree before that order is placed in Germany and made, and then obviously shipped back to the UK. So come customers' kitchen being fitted, the mistakes, problems, errors, which are prevalent perhaps in kitchens, are minimised, which is a great advantage for us.
Right, so there's an extra stage in the process that basically filters out any mistakes or problems there might be, which clearly you wouldn't have necessarily with just a Nobilia dealer.
Is my understanding.
Yeah.
So we have that technical team in place for that purpose.
Yeah, which makes sense. And again, it's that consistency thing, isn't it, which is a big part of it. How do you, and I know we keep talking about consistency because you're growing to this sort of critical mass of size, is how do you ensure a consistency in the service and design expertise that you might get in Kutchenhaus in one town is going to be the same as another?
Which is a very good question. So my response to that is our field team. So within our field team, we have a growing support centre, but also a growing field team. Within the field team, we have regional directors, regional managers and trainers. And these people will visit our Kutchenhaus showrooms up and down the country on a very regular basis to support that design consistency. On top of that, we also encourage all our franchise partners, particularly designers, to partake in training, whether that's at Nobilia in Germany, also here in the UK, to achieve that level of consistency. And in terms of service, when I onboarded into Kutchenhaus 2.5 years ago, the first work that we did was some consumer research. And what absolutely shone through out of that consumer research, benchmark versus the competition, was the fantastic level of service that a customer would experience within all Kutchenhaus showrooms. I think that's really a really strong point of difference for us.
I understand that some of the businesses that you have taking on franchises, they actually are independent kitchen retailers who are then taking on Kutchenhaus franchise as a second business. What do you feel that they bring, their experience and their ideas? What do they bring that's different?
It's been very interesting to see some big players, independents, convert and open perhaps a third kitchen showroom with Kutchenhaus. It's been very interesting to see their level of influence within the KBB market. And within that, certainly they've opened up more doors for us to have discussions with other independents with a view to converting more of those in the future.
Have you learned anything from them, though? Because they're very, very experienced in that market, aren't they? And I'm just wondering whether there's any sort of two-way street to that.
It is a two-way street. Our regional team will be better placed to answer that question. We've had positive feedback in terms of the marketing. I won't name any names, of course. Positive feedback about the level of marketing, which has caused those existing businesses to relook at their own marketing for their existing businesses.
I mean, I know the people that you're talking about, and obviously they're very complimentary about it, because I think to them it's almost, they're so experienced in how to run a kitchen business that to take one out of a box, I don't mean that in an insulting way, and to open something somewhere else, and they're very comfortable in how it works because clearly they have that understanding. It's a very, again, I'm trying not to make it sound like insulting because it's supposed to be a compliment. It's a very easy option for them to take, and it's just a really interesting thing. Now, let's get to the nuts and bolts of how this has gone over the last 5 years. There's lots of other franchise models out in the market, and there are franchises that are straight retailers. There's ones that are door replacements. There's quite a few of them out there, but none of them have had the phenomenal growth of Kutchenhaus. They've got to the point where, as you say, nearly 80. I'm sure you've got plans for a lot more than that, and I'll ask you that in a minute. But what's the secret sauce here? Why have you managed to do this where others haven't?
I think the platform for that is the backing of Nobilia, Europe's #1 kitchen manufacturer. Gives us a fantastic platform. On top of that, from a Kutchenhaus lens, there's a couple of things. The vision of the leadership of the business is fantastic, and also I would suggest the team culture. When I say team culture, I'm definitely not just talking about our support centre and our field team, our regional team. I'm absolutely talking about the franchise partners as one cohesive team. Franchise partners come on board with Kutchenhaus. This is new franchise partners. They are really well received as a new part of the team. And the level of support, knowledge sharing, even through devices like WhatsApp, welcome to the team. And if they've got any questions, they're supported.
Which is all brilliant. But at the end of the day, there must be something in there that says the amount of money you've got to put in, you're going to get a lot more money out of it. There's a financial part to any of these agreements, aren't there? That must be very appealing to new franchisees coming on board.
Absolutely. So a strength of Kutchenhaus is the relatively low barrier to entry. Investment, if you want to start a new Kutchenhaus, initial investment, there is no onboarding fee to join Kutchenhaus. And within the first year, your investment level should be somewhere between £80,000 and £120,000, which relatively speaking, I understand to be a low barrier to entry. And then in terms of existing business, it's great to know that, yes, we're opening new showrooms, but our comparable showrooms, as I like to call them, or the like for like, in Kutchenhaus is around the 15% up mark based on the previous year.
So there's a qualitative and quantitative element to the argument, isn't there, which I think is I can see why that's very attractive, particularly if you already know the kitchen market, you know how it works. There's also been a massive investment for Nobilia in this because the growth has been so rapid as well. So there is as you say, there's a big bit of muscle behind this.
Again, yeah, it's fantastic to have that backing from the Nobilia team in Germany. We talk to Nobilia on a regular basis. They're very supportive of the Kutchenhaus franchise model. As you would expect, we're performing well, and long may that continue.
I'm going to ask you the question you've been expecting now, Paul. So let's just see what your answer is going to be. How many Kutchenhauses do you want?
In which period of time, Andrew? I'll use the football analogy, which is my go-to analogy. We're going to take not one game at a time, but we're taking a year at a time. So at the start of the year, how it looks like within Kutchenhaus, we have a pipeline of franchise partners who we look at that we would like to bring on board. And that really shapes our progress. So again, by the end of Q3 this year, we expect to have somewhere in the UK between 80 and 85 showrooms, and there will be more showrooms to follow in Q4. Start of FY25, we'll have launched a brand new dedicated franchise partner recruitment website, which is going live later this month, with a view to onboarding new quality franchise partners, whether they're from a design background, an independent or an investor.
Do you have an optimal number for a particular region, for example?
Not within a particular region. A lot of times franchise partners or potential franchise partners will approach us. It's no secret that in recent times, the biggest growth area has been the southeast. There's lots and lots of opportunity out there. And we've recently opened showrooms in the northwest. We're looking at the northeast. We're looking at development in Scotland.
Okay, so let's make an assumption then that you'd want a Kutchenhaus in every major town or city. There's a catchment area element to it. So let's pick a number out the air, which is 250. Very neutral poker face that you have there. So I suppose the argument towards, and you must have this discussion internally all the time, is like, when is there a critical mass where service levels or consistency and all these things start to kind of become a bit of a problem? Is there an issue where you're concentrating so much on growth that you're taking your eye off the ball of the existing franchises that you have and the level of service and support you have to give them? How far can you stretch the mechanism or the machinery of this to maintain consistency on all sides? Because growth is clearly a massive thing, and you clearly have, I'm sure you do have targets that you're not going to tell us about, and I'm sure Nobilia have targets that want you to reach, but you're establishing a kind of army of franchisees behind you that need looking after, and then you're growing at the same time, and that's very difficult things to juggle when you get to that size.
In short, I think, I look through things through a marketing lens. My focus is twofold. I'm interested in helping the existing showrooms achieve their like performance. That's absolutely critical because we want our existing franchise partners to stay with us on this great journey. And of course, the other element is onboarding new franchise partners who may be coming to Kutchenhaus for the very first time. We do have existing franchise partners who are opening the second, third or fourth showroom. But then again, several new franchise partners I've met recently are coming into Kutchenhaus afresh. And that is my key focus. I'm really focused from a marketing perspective on this year, and we'll work on a strategic plan for next year. Beyond that isn't really of my remit. And in terms of the support centre, what I can say in terms of the support centre and the regional team, as I've already alluded to, is growing significantly. The people count, the head count, whatever you want to call it, at the support centre is growing. We did what we call a team huddle internally at the support centre yesterday, and we said hello to 4 new people across installations, across 2 people in tech, and a lead enhancement recruitment person.
It's such an interesting thing, and I can't wait to see how far you kind of stretch it, because a lot of the time where these companies fail is that they have growth versus support, and they kind of lose track of one or the other, but it's clearly it is working for you.
Yeah, and again, from the previous roles I've had in other companies, like-for-like performance has been absolutely key. New store openings, growth, new franchise partners in terms of Kutchenhaus is absolutely fantastic, but the bedrock has got to be the existing performance like-for-like. And again, touch wood, to be 15% up like-for-like in the current climate, I think is a decent result.
Now, as you say, you've been around actually in the UK for 20 years, even though you've had this massive rise in the last 5. So come on, how did you mark? Did you have a big birthday party or something?
We did have a big birthday party. We arranged a conference, a Kutchenhaus team conference in Portugal. Portugal's actually my favourite place to go because you can get to the sunshine in 2.5 hours. That's by plane, not train. We had a fantastic event. We hadn't done this sort of event before, so we weren't quite sure what to expect. We held it over 2 or 3 days in June. Fantastic event on the Algarve, superbly organised by a colleague of mine, James. And the feedback from the franchise partners, I would suggest that probably 2/3 of our franchise teams were present. And all I heard was positives about how great an experience was. And following the event, all the questions are, where are we going in 2025?
Can I query one part of that, Paul? It's the word conference.
Right,
how much conference actually went on in that?
How much conference? So from a customer's point of view, the franchise partners obviously being Kutchenhaus's customers, we limited that. So the likes of me only talked at our franchise partners for a 3-hour window during one of the mornings. And the rest of the time was coming together, a celebration, knowledge sharing, and just a really, really good time.
Can we call it team building?
Yeah. I think what much better description to me sounds like all-day buffet.
You're not a million miles away, Andrew.
All-day buffet and open bar. That's what that sounds like to me.
No, I just love the way that Paul got to send everyone to his favourite part of the world. Yeah. I just think that's brilliant.
And infinity pool. That's the other 2 words that are coming into my head.
You were there, Andrew.
Can I come back to you for a second, Gordon? Because I want to ask you about data, because what you have when you reach this kind of size is huge amounts of customer data, personal data. How are you gathering data from individual franchisees and websites and putting it all in one place to manipulate it?
Yeah, so we have a common set of technologies which all of our franchisees use. Actually, a lot of the technologies which are common across the Nobilia world. So that gives us quite a lot of efficiencies in terms of development spend and those sorts of things. So if we need to make a change, we can make it once for all of our franchisees and all of our different partner companies.
You obviously have that data that tells you what customers are looking at, what products are the most popular, what people are searching for, and presumably you're disseminating that information across as well.
Yeah, it's ultimately all about giving the right experience that a customer wants. So whether it be showing the customer the right product for them based on what information they've told us in the past. So, a really simple thing like understanding the size of their kitchen will give us a really good indication of what kind of kitchen they would like, where their house is, and what is their style of house, how do they use their kitchen. And it's great that we can collect all this data, but actually I think what customers really appreciate from Kutchenhaus is the time they spend with our showroom team. That's really where the showroom team really understand how a customer uses their kitchen and really make sure they produce the best design for them.
But data like that can be very powerful
Yes,
for those teams as well, can't it?
It also informs suppliers as well. So, clearly that kind of information, when you understand what customers are looking for, feeding that back to Nobilia HQ, then that actually gets fed back to the likes of Hettich, so that we're actually developing the products that your end users need. It's a very valuable part of the chain.
This is going to be a slightly odd question, Paul, but who is your competition? When you're benchmarking yourself of where you're at, who are you taking market share off? How much of it are you examining the market in that way?
Kutchenhaus occupies a position in what we call the mid-premium market. So we do look at the entry-level brands, if you like, the sheds. They're the likes of the big brands, Wren, Magnet, etc. So we do look at them in terms of what they're doing in terms of marketing. And then in the mid-premium position with the other brands that you've already alluded to, the likes of Schmidt, perhaps a bit further up the chain, Kessler. But yeah, more than we occupy the mid-premium position. From a personal perspective, I benchmark the Kutchenhaus's success on previous Kutchenhaus performance rather than the wider kitchen market. We're well aware that the likes of Magnet are looking at the franchise market, and we welcome that. Its competition is healthy. It's interesting to see these big brands look at that avenue, and we welcome it. All it's going to make us do is continue to look at our offer, see if we can sharpen it even further, and continue what we've been doing right.
I think most independent retailers, for example, would see Magnet a bit as the enemy or a direct competitor of theirs, whereas Kutchenhaus, because each franchisee is an individual independent retailer, it seems to be much more part of the independent retail world. It's interesting where people see Kutchenhaus sitting in the family tree of the kitchen retail market.
I think the answer to that is that Kutchenhaus offers the best of both worlds. We give the level of freedom from a marketing perspective and other areas and other functions. We do give that area of freedom. Kutchenhaus showrooms can be seen as an independent, family-owned boutique showroom, but absolutely with the backing of the emerging Kutchenhaus brand and obviously the presence of Nobilia.
So I just think it's a fascinating story. It has a phenomenal level of growth about it that you just don't see very often in this market. That's why we wanted to get you in and talk to you today about it.
Well, absolutely. When the series was called Changemakers, then Kutchenhaus is a clear example of one of the changes that's being made.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the feedback, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you.